Good evening, Jeremy. How are you?
Hi, how are you?
I'm very well, thanks. I'm very well.
It's been a funny old year. We've enjoyed some good times, and you've introduced us to some listening people who really know their whiskey from the distilleries. So it's been good.
Indeed, indeed. Well, listen, it's been far too long since we've had one of our online drams. So this evening, Jeremy and I have agreed that we're going to have a short one because sometimes these go on. And they can be quite lengthy. So we're going to have one or two quick drams with you guys. We'll have a bit of a chat and a bit of a catch up. I think, yes, the pandemic is still very much in our everyday lives, and life is still stressful. And we figured it'd be nice just to have a chat and for you guys to tune in and join us having a whiskey. So welcome.
Yep. Good.
What are you drinking tonight, Jeremy?
Well, during the last couple of months, I've been up to north of the border about 4 times.
Wow.
Two of them three of them to do with whiskey. One to pick up some bottles in Edinburgh that I bought at auction. And then I've had two trips. One where I managed to persuade my wife. We went for a day in the Trossachs in Aberfoyle, and then we made our way down one of the longest one-way, streets to nowhere, to Campbelltown, somewhere I'd always wanted to visit, and it's like 140 odd miles down a one-way, a dead end basically, and it's beautiful, and I really enjoyed visiting, particularly Springbank, where I wanted to go. Obviously, COVID kept them close, but we did go around Springbank, which was the one I wanted to go, but I went to go and Scotia as well. And then went up to Oban and visited the distillery there, and then a trip over to Mull because I particularly wanted to visit Tobermory. So I came back with 10 bottles. It's funny because I've got a Jag F-type, and it's convertible, but there's like a shelf underneath, and no clothes, no nothing was going there. That was bottle space. And that was trip number one. And then I've just come back about a week ago from Speyside, where I go every year, to just down the road from Royal Lochnagar in Balta. And been going there for 30 years, and since I've been obsessed with whiskey, it's a buying trip, so I bought another 11 odd bottles from that trip, and that's always welcome. Replenish the stocks.
Yeah, you're looking well stocked up there. That's good.
Yeah, I mean, a lot of them now are underneath. We've got too many, I suppose, but I drink most of what I buy. And I've got a few bottles up on the shelf which have got meaning for me. But even one I bought in auction, which I thought, oh well, I won't open, but I am going to open at some stage because it's a Glenfarclas from 1960, the year of my birth. And I bought it thinking, oh, I'll never open this, but the more I think about it, what's the point? I don't think
that happened to me during lockdown. I had bottles that I never dreamt I would open, and I thought, what the hell?
Yeah, it is. I've got also one a Cargis up there, the first Cargis, and at some stage I'll open that from Lefroy. The first year they did it, and I kept that one.
I'm going to show you this. This is what I'm going to sampling tonight.
That's old. It's big and beefy. That's a big player in Dufftown.
It is, and I'd never had this before, believe it or not. I'd never tried it, and it was given to me as a gift. And we talk about whiskies being smooth quite often. It's one of the terms that's used a lot. This is silky. It really is silky smooth. It's sweet. It's heathery. I think and there's a number of whiskies. I think if I was introducing somebody who didn't like whiskey or had never tried whiskey, and there's a number in my head that I would let them have. But this is super easy, and the beauty of it is I think it would be a great beginner's whiskey to introduce somebody. But for a seasoned whiskey drinker, there's enough complexity and things going on that it's actually quite interesting as well. So I was quite impressed with this. Very easy to drink.
I think it rings a bell, something like the Beastie.
It does, yeah. The beast of Dufftown.
It just rung a bell, yeah. Very, very sophisticated malt. Beautiful, smooth as you say.
It is, yeah. That's very impressed.
Well, I'm going to open it. Yeah, that is well known among connoisseurs of whiskey. Yeah. I've got a whiskey here today, and I think it's as unusual as its name. Well, many people won't know this. This really is, Speyside whiskey.
Yeah.
And it's pronounced Alta Vane. Okay. In Gaelic, it means smoked burn. And I assume that the burn nearby is that's the name of the burn near the distillery. It's located, and it's not one you can visit. It's actually owned by Shivers Brothers.
I've got an interesting little fact for you there. It's the surname Auld, Auld.
Yeah.
People assume that means old, but it doesn't. Oh. It comes from alt. It comes from the burn. So there you go. Sorry to interrupt, but that's one of the useless bits of information that I have in my head.
But it's an interesting whiskey that was introduced in 19. I think it opened in 1975, and I think Seagram's opened the distillery. It's now under Shivers Brothers, which I think is owned by Pernod Ricard. And I suppose there's a few distilleries that people know, Aberlour, and Glenlivet is the most famous name in their the whiskey. But this one is interesting. This is a special distillery-only edition, which is only generally available at distilleries. Now, for example, the Glenlivet one is only available at Glenlivet and none of the other distilleries, but this one you will find in any of the Shivers Brothers distilleries because they don't have their own distillery open to the public. And I haven't tasted it. I have researched it, and I think it's going to be as unusual as its name. If I can open it up, and I'll tell you why. Because I think most of the whiskies that we try from Speyside are not peated. There's Ardmore, there's Ben. I've been to that distillery a number of times, but this is a peated whiskey. As I say, it was opened only in about 1975, and this is a second fill, cask strength, 58, 93 of 300 bottles. And it's a 15-year-old, and it was filled in 2005, and it was in 2020 it was actually bottled. And let's just look at the colour. And not quite as deep because it's the second fill, and probably quite as deep as perhaps some we know. And what can I tell you? I mean, I'm doing this live, so let's see. Let me make it quite clear, this is nothing like you would get from an Islay where it kind of knocks your head off as the phenolics hit you. This is subtle. very subtle actually. And you get a wisp of smoke, but there's nothing greater. It doesn't hit you. So let's try. There's an initial pepper. I think it's quite fruity, quite sweet, and that is something they're basic. They do one which you can actually buy now. Their bread and butter whiskey. I think it's a 12-year-old, and that is meant to be quite sweet, and so is this, unsurprisingly. So after that pepper hits you, it makes way to sweet, fruity. Perhaps as it breaks away and the smoke leaves you and everything, maybe it is quite sweet, almost fudgy, toffee kind of flavour. A very complex, I think, dram, and very nice. And further research today, because I didn't know very much about this whiskey, and I don't think many people would. It's a large component of a very well-known Chivas whiskey, and I have one of the bottles here. Chivas Regal. And Cultivane forms, I believe, a good part. They have two stills, quite slender apparently. Obviously, I've not seen them. And it's a Chivas Regal. And I'm going to give this test. And I think early on when we first spoke, and some of the other people kind of turned their nose up when Jeremy said he likes. First of all, I love my glasses. This is a Waterford glass, but I had a cube. It's melting while I was waiting for Mike. But I'm just going to turn my power off. And then I'm going to put. And I more and more, it seems almost like, I don't know about you, Mike, but I mean, more and more things change in whiskey. In the same way that gin now, it's all flavoured gins and gins from every nook and cranny of the whole UK. You can find this, every different flavour in every different place, including their own gin. And obviously before that happened with vodka. And really gin is just vodka with a juniper barrel and the aromatics. But with whiskey now, besides all the finishes, and one way we can talk a little about that is finishes in anything now, from liqueurs to beer, goodness knows what. One of the things about whiskey is now how we drink it. I mean, the pure, it's a bit like red wine over red servitude. Temperature, white wine, cooled, and whiskey was always frowned upon. And I know with my friends, and I said, well, I like whiskey with a cube, and the Americans obviously like it a lot. But it was always frowned upon. Oh no, you can't. And I've argued the point that I don't think many people could really detect the decrease in the evaporation. And in any case, when it goes into the mouth, it mixes back up to room temperature and flows. And I just like things cold. But certainly many more whiskies now, that not just your Winter Gold, I know that you've from Darwin, which you like, but Highland Park, and there are others now who are saying, enjoy your whiskey, how you like it, and actually recommending to put out. And I know a lot of people will turn the nose up at it. That's why I began with the Glencairn. And it's like Glencairn. People seem to think Glencairns are something ancient in whiskey. They're not. It was only, I think, around the 80s that Glencairn got. And the reason was, when we're playing around with whiskey and you're going round and round like this, that it came slooshing out of the glass, that they came up with the Glencairn. So what's this going to be like when it's cool? Totally different. Wow. And I mean, that's blown me, and I don't often get blown away that quickly. From what I just tasted, neat, cast strength, yes, a little bit of water, but it's only been a few seconds. Smoother, and then over lemon taste, the zest of the fruit. Didn't really get the lemon flavour, it was more apples and everything else, but very citrusy. And refreshing. One for a nice summer's night, and I don't know, it's warming up over the next few days, so I could see a few more drums coming up of this glass. So there you go, ultra bone. And sometimes you do see these distillery only bottles coming on specialist whiskey sites. You can't get them at places like Masters of Malt, but sometimes on these auction sites they'll come up if you can't get up to any of the distilleries to buy them. I'm going to pass over to you, Mike, to talk a bit about the Mortlake, and then I'm going to give a lovely story after that.
Interestingly, I don't often add much in the way of water or ice to my whiskies, but I know you find it very interesting. And also, what interested me was on the side of the box here, it actually says add water or ice to reveal the true Mortlach character.
Wow!
Which I mean, how can you not be intrigued by a promise like that?
I didn't know that. You brought that. I would have thought Mortlach was one of the big boys, in a different way to the common names like Glenfiddich or Glenlivet or Glenmorangie. It's kind of like Dalmore. It's got a certain je ne sais quoi. It's a very refined whiskey. So and not a cheap whiskey. And so that's why I think you're right. It's they're exploring, obviously.
Exactly. But what interests me by I added a chunk of ice there, because it was so smooth and so sweet to begin with, and I thought, is it going to be smoother? Will it be sweeter? How will it affect it? And it's really unusual because what it's done is opened up a kind of licorice and spiciness that wasn't there without it. So it's actually got, and I can see why they've written that on the box, because it's got more complexity to it with the ice. It's actually a stronger flavour, weirdly, with the ice.
Well, I'm glad. I mean, if other people try them, I mean, the most interesting thing is I had the good fortune to visit literally dozens of distilleries, mostly around Speyside, but beyond that as well. And almost all the distillers and managers of these distilleries will all say whiskey's how you enjoy it. And I think that often is forgotten, and people hide behind snobbery and go like sheep and they'll follow. And I've never been a sheep in dentistry, and I'm certainly not a sheep in I don't follow the crowd necessarily. So
you've got to try different ways and different things, absolutely. But that I always had a sense though that adding, especially ice, because it chills down the particles, that it reduces the flavour. Because I know if you find a whiskey too strong, chilling it, having some ice is going to make it easier to drink. But that has really surprised me, because it's kind of done the opposite. It's made it stronger, which is strange.
Yeah. And I think as soon as you put it in your mouth, it warms up anyway to room temperature, and you get that burst of flavours, and maybe it holds it down and makes it more dramatic as it did with you. That's this is completely different, I must admit. I mean, it's like a different experience. There are some where this change really isn't so dramatic. And I've got to be honest, I don't drink a lot, and call it whiskey snobbery. I don't drink a lot of blended whiskey, okay? Only at parties, receptions where there's nothing else on offer. So probably my mistake, because I always think, oh well, it's got grain whiskey, a lot of it, and it's only a proportion of malt. And now obviously grain whiskey is the there's lots of very fine.
That's it. I mean, obviously, you get into conversations with people if you linger long enough in the whiskey aisle of a supermarket. And a chap recently was, he was extolling the virtues of black bottle blended whiskey. Now, he seemed to know his whiskies, and he said that it is the best bang for the buck. Now, I wasn't convinced enough to give it a punt, but I'm certainly my curiosity was tweaked, and I think I might have to give it a burl because he said for the price on it, he said it's a really, really nice blended whiskey. So I've not tried Black Bottle. I don't know if you have before.
You mean Johnny Walker Black? Or
No. It's called. I think it was just called Black Bottle. I don't know who makes it. Actually, I don't know.
No.
It was literally in a small black bottle. So, but it was only. I think it was only about 18 quid or something like that.
Yeah.
But he said it was a beautiful whiskey.
I think there is a huge snobbery. Well, some of the blended whiskies nowadays, like Bat Shivers do the Royal and this and that and that. Expensive. And there's a lot of blended malts now.
Yes.
Yeah. In fact, I was on my trip up in Scotland, and we do a lot of walking, and it's fabulous, and I love it up there. And we came across one place. The name of the place. But what was interesting, I said, I found somewhere for lunch. I think we walked from Aberlour, so it's walking a few miles from there. And it was Copper Dog.
Okay, yeah.
Blended malt, and it was a restaurant as well. And yes, I said, I know this. And I saw a bottle of Copper Dog, and they said, yeah, we make Copper Dog. And that's
very good.
Well-known blended malt.
Yes.
And the secret recipe.
Very good. I'm going to be cheeky enough because I have finished my dram, Jeremy, and I know I said we should only have really one each, but I'm going to have a quick sneaky second dram.
Well, good.
And what I'm going to have is this.
Wow.
Okay. Now this is from Aaron.
And
it's the Master of Distilling Volume 2. Now, I was really disappointed when Aaron stopped their 14-year-old. I thought it was a beautiful whiskey, really, really nice, heathery, light, floral whiskey, but it's no longer available. You can buy it online for about 100 quid. And I was over in Aaron recently, and I managed to get one of these. And I have to say, I'm not a huge fan of the packaging for this. I think it looks a little odd on the outside box, but actually, as you open up, it's quite a nice box that they've got for this. And that's it there. If you can see it, move this the right way.
Yeah,
so it's a nice little box. Okay, and that's it there. Now
that looks very good.
Let me just open this up. I just realised because I've got two. That one isn't opened yet. This one is open, so I need to get it. I don't know have two of the same whiskey open at one time. That would be wrong. Because I bought a second one for a good reason. So this is it here, and this is a superb sherry cask whiskey. It is quite similar to the 14-year-old for anybody who misses the 14-year-old. There it is there, and it's very, very similar to the 14-year-old they had.
What percentage alcohol?
Sorry, I just had to get some of that in me because it's so nice. It is 51.8, so it's stronger than the 14-year-old was. Yeah. 14-year-old, I think, was about 43, but it's got a lot of similar characteristics to it. Now, bearing in mind, this is a 52% whiskey. It's a 12-year-old Aaron. This is about 50 quid.
That's good value.
It is a really, really good value buy. I was almost tempted not to reveal this because it's a limited range, 12,000 bottles. And I kind of debated whether or not I would talk about it because I don't want anyone else to buy it.
Wow. Yeah. Now, I'm going to show you something now and share a story with you. And this is absolutely verbatim.
Okay.
I went up to the distillery. I've got to be very careful. This is live TV. I've got passions in my life. and whiskey was right up there, and cars.
Yeah.
Well, I'm a Jag man, and
I'm the same.
I've had 7 or 8 Jags, and my latest is an F9 car. I had one before, and the only place you can drive a car, I'm not interested in going on a motorway or even a track really. Certainly not with my own, but I like to drive a car.
Yeah.
And up in the Highlands of Scotland, you can drive a car.
Yeah.
Going over Lesh, over ski slopes, you can really let your car. And I know all these places like almost every turn in the road because I've been going for 30 years. And I can really drive my car. Sometimes on the straight, weaving in and out. Believe it or not, once over one of them, I think it was actually near that. So I was driving, or near Coolgarth or somewhere. There was a mobile camera, one of those white vans. I almost got caught, but there were more after the bikers, and thank God I didn't. But I really do motor. I can't tell you how I drive. Obviously in the speed limit, if you believe that, because we're on live TV. But I really do put the car through its paces. And so I often would go off, and I've got the top down. The weather is fantastic up there, blue sky. I came back with a tan, and everyone says, "Well, have you been to Mallorca?" And I haven't. And I go off driving, sometimes with my wife screaming in my ear with the loud music for it. Going on, me driving the stuff, going to the distilleries and bang. And I went 3 times this time to Glenlivet because there was nothing better than going over the top, going over through Tomintower, over the top, and driving these drives. Near Coolgarth Castle, yes, it is fabulous. And I went to Glenlivet, and Vic, you're going to enjoy this one. And I went to Glenlivet, and they had, for the first time, they followed the Diageos of this world, and Diageo did it. And actually, when I was up in Edinburgh, and I actually came to collect my bottles, I managed to persuade my wife to go to Glenkinchie. And we went to Glenkinchie, and very interesting. Over the last few years, we never used to do it, but Diageo introduced these 48% distillery-owned bottles. Very good. I've got the Royal Nagar, I've got a Glenkinchie. But now, this year, they've introduced cask strength. Fill your own. They've never done it before. And I bought a bottle of Royal Nagar. I haven't even tried it yet, and I will be. And they're all doing it. Glenkinchie did it, now Royal Nagar are doing it, and believe it or not, you can now get the cask strength even at Cardiff, another one. I bought one from Cardiff. But although it's a different Shivers and it's a different distillery, guess what? Glenlivet are doing it. Now, Glenlivet, as I say, do them in this kind of bottles, and I've got them, but these are already filled. Now it's fill your own. First year they've ever done it. So what did I do? I bought 12-year-old cask strength, the best value malt, batch 001. And this is bottle 710, 58%. 12-year-old. It's not even like many of them, which are not aged when they do this. Like Fiddick is often 15-year-old. This is a 12-year-old. 50 quid.
That's brilliant.
So I bought a bottle, and we drank some on the terrace. So we had a few grams. I went back again, and on the second occasion, I bought this beauty. I bought a Dan Torcas, another one you won't know, or Tormore. These are pretty unusual. That was the second time I went back. On the third time, because we've been going through this, I bought the brother. And this may have been on the second again. I bought the 18-year-old. So I've got an 18-year-old. This was about 130 quid. So I've got the 18-year-old. I've not yet opened it. And I get a call today. In fact, before this call, I get a call from one of the family because we go up there en masse, and one of my niece's husbands said, "Have you been contacted?" And I thought he was winding me up. Have you been contacted by Glenn Liver? And it's a bit jokey. He's got a great sense of humour, but he was winding my son up, and he was saying he was winding my son up, saying, "Oh yeah, Glenn Liver's I phoned him and some cock and bull story. We want the whiskey. It's got too much copper in it." Yeah. He's winding you up. What rubbish! They don't put copper in it. Load of nonsense. Forget it. They'll blow me down. This morning, I get a phone call. Look at the number. I can see it's from Scotland. It's Glenn Liver. And I often don't put the right email or address or something, but for some reason I did this time, and it was Glenn Liver. And Dr. Cooper, have you got the bottle of the 15? And in fact, it was a bit weird because I went in one day and I had bought the 67th bottle of a huge cask of the 18-year-old, and I was saying maybe 67 bottles, so it must be a good number. Next day I went, there was nothing. There's someone who's bought it, and we were here very late. Anyway, it's even got the signature or the name of the distiller. Anyway, they said, "Dr. Cooper, please don't drink it." I went, "Why?" It was too much copper in the malts in these whiskies. And don't worry, I said, "Well, we've drunk 3/4 of the bottle." And they said, "Well, don't worry, I think you'd still be under the WH record daily recommendations if you'd done that amount, in any case, in one day. So don't worry about it." And they said, "We want them back." I went, "What? Okay. But they're going to send me an uncontaminated bottle for the 12-year-old and an uncontaminated bottle for the 18-year-old. It got me thinking, and I will be phoning them up. And I never thought twice. How can it become contaminated with copper?
Yeah.
I don't know the answer, but when I find out, I will. But they did say, would I send it back? They'll send the packaging to pick it up, and they will send me a copper-free 18 and 12-year-old cask strength handful. And as well as that, because of the trouble they put us through, they're going to throw in their regular 12 and a regular 18-year-old as well to boot, which is very nice. And I'm just thinking to myself, is it one of those you think, "Oh, keep this, it could be rare," but you know what? I'll play ball, I'll send it back. But before I do send it back, I want to know, how could it have been contaminated?
It's got me wondering whether they've filled it with their 70-year-old or something by mistake,
I just don't know. The son said he didn't particularly like it. I can't say it was the 12-year-old was one of the best I've ever drunk.
Here's your answer. Copper content can depend upon rate and speed of distillation, also temperature of cooling water.
Okay. Vic.
That's a 12-year-old whiskey though. So would do they not sample after distillation? Because if that's sat in a cask for 12 years, surely you don't want to find out that after 12 years,
Yeah, I don't know, but they want it back. So these two beauties, but going to be sent back. And people may think I'm crazy, but would you drink it? No. I won't drink it now, but I'll send it back to them and take the bottles. It'll be quite interesting to compare the 12-year-old to a 12-year-old.
Yeah, I think, as you say though, if you've got a good relationship with the distillery, it'd be a bit mean to.
Listen, I'm going to send it back. That's way inclined, but an interesting one, I thought.
It is. I've never heard of that.
No, I've never been asked to send any whiskey I do. What was
Yeah.
interesting when you bought them, they asked you to fill it in. But interesting, I was going to say that the Alta Vein I was drinking is actually only 10 ppm of phenolics, so it's pretty light on the phenolics.
So I added. So I was going to say I added some water and ice to this the Arran here, so you can see this is definitely non-chill filtered. Look at the cloudiness in there.
Mm. And you know what? If you've got what I've finished that and been rabbiting, then I'm going to pick a bottle of random.
It's nice.
I'll pick.
Jeremy's off on one of his wanderings. Here he comes.
I will, as we're talking about blender, it does seem suitable to get a blend with it. So let's.
There's a bit of a pun there as well, Vic. I've never heard of copper contamination, and I first read that ether, so I thought that was quite amusing. Is it either or ether?
Ether. Right.
We are wrapping this up in 5 minutes, Jeremy. So right. Let's.
Glenlivet.
Yes.
A 12-year-old. Glenlivet, I think, certainly, I should imagine, and Vic may know the answer to this. In days gone by, certainly, everything was done in sherried casks, but now Glenlivet is much more known for its pale colours, bourbon barrel, for its regular 12-year-old. But here we are, a distillery owned, first fill book, very rich, 58%, 576 of 956 bottles, because they make big for sherry. Often the sherry butts are large, and
look at the colour of that.
Yeah, it's just like looking at Aberlour. I mean, it's we're both fond of that, and I've got some interesting Aberlours on the shelf, but I brought back. But this is all your Christmases come together. I mean, it's, the nose is heavy in fruit. You can almost taste the Christmas cake before you even get it onto your palate. I mean, it's rich and fruity. The sherry note. Yeah. And you know what, Vic? I won't argue about you with Maduro. I've got one in the cupboard. This is very, very good. It's like many of these heavy-duty Glenlivets. They really are fruity, full of flavour. Christmas cake, almost chocolatey, and I think that they you can almost mask. A bit like I sometimes think some of the Islays, you can mask a lot of, because of the strength and the flavour of the phenolics really take over your palate, and it's the interesting ones where other things come out. This is really heavy. I mean, it's very, very shallow. I mean, it's beautiful colour, absolutely gorgeous.
It's gorgeous, isn't it? Yeah.
Yeah, it's almost very, very dark, but full of flavour. And I must say, I think a good winter's whiskey, and I would say not necessarily with ice. It's just nice to warming whiskey, very easy. But there you go. So we're going to wrap.
Well, this has been a really nice. A nice catch up, a couple of drams, and a bit of a natter. How is life with you? Otherwise, work and everything going okay?
It's difficult. I mean, I don't know about. I know you're in private practice in Edinburgh. And
yeah.
I'm genuinely a mixed practice through choice. Though, am I coming to the end of it? I think the way that the National Health Service is at the moment.
It's not easy.
It's not easy. North of the border or south of the border, I think it's dreadfully underfunded. I think the Mickey Mouse outfits, as I call them, a lot of, I can only say this because I have had cause, I don't often have cause to actually employ a few agency nurses.
Mm-hmm.
And having spoken to them, certainly in the Manchester area, there's one or two dentists, maybe more than one or two, who are not adhering to the rules. And it's not helped that on the internet there's certain large names where they're saying it's a waste of time and everything else, and but there's more than one person have actually said who have I have no reason to doubt the validity of their arguments, and they mirror much of what I would say about the safety elements. Is it necessary? But the powers that be are saying they're having to do this, dressing the gowns, cleaning the surgery. At first it was every hour, all the time. You people north of the border with your 10-minute fiascos made on the back of a fag packet, and with the fallow times and everything else. But even though you may not be cleaning the floor, you're wiping every surface down as we do, and having to clean the respirators, cleaning this, cleaning that, putting that time to don, to take off you think, we're doing it, and it takes time. We're asked for 60% at the moment, south of the border. People have talked about whether it's going to go up to 80, and I've written a plea on Facebook on the dentists and the dentist by dentist or whatever it's called, Facebook group, saying you can't alter it now, because I know from my perspective some dentists are struggling, but I can just around cope with 60. But if you were to put it up to 80, one thing you've got to give is either got to cut corners, which is unforgivable, or you've got to resign.
Yeah.
I don't see it easy to do what you're meant to do. 65 shots, but any more than, I will certainly be looking at whether or not to resign. I don't know. I don't know. We'd have to see. I don't know. It's different north of the border, and I don't know any of your colleagues and friends that you know who are not in private practice like yourself, what they're doing.
Yeah, I'm not sure. But certainly, I mean, it's regardless, it is still a hell of a stressful time for everybody in dentistry. It has not been easy, and obviously throughout this broadcast, we've had going across the bottom banner here our confidential helpline, and I would highly encourage anybody, if they're struggling, give these guys a call, get the number, give them a call, and they will help. It's good to have friends around you and be able to chat and take your mind off things by whatever means, whether it's a dram, as long as you're not overdoing it, or any other means. But if you are really struggling and things are tough, then give these guys a call, because
I can give you the telephone number. I know it by heart. It's 0333 987 5158. That's 0333 987 5158. And we're there. Oh, thank you. We're there 24/7, 365 days, and there's some amazing people who have joined us and are our volunteers. We will be, and indeed I will be there on the Saturday of the dentistry show in London. I'm going down, and we've got to stand there. So come and say hello. And if you need us, we're there for you.
And I think that's the thing, some of the social groups that we have online now, the whiskey group for me has been a fantastic outlet, kind of camaraderie, and just being able to take your mind away things with people that understand, but I guess the one issue with the whiskey thing is just avoiding using that as a crutch, because alcohol is not the answer to your woes, as much as it's a nice social thing for the likes of this, but it's certainly not going to solve problems. So please, if you're needing help, then speak to folk that can offer you sound advice and help you through the troubled days.
And I'm going to also say, and they're also online, actually a group founded in the early 80s called the Dentist Health Support Trust. They were originally called the Dentist Fitness Scheme. and they're also there. We will, if necessary, refer to them, and by all means call us first. But if you've got a problem with that type of thing, then you may say, "Oh, I need dentists really have a problem a lot."
Yeah.
And I've come across colleagues and heard stories, dentists thinking at work, on the way to work, certainly when they come home from work, and thinking they haven't got a problem, but they're having a wee dram every day. And it's gone from 1 to 2 to 3 or whatever. So
I restrict mine now. It's weekend only, so Friday, Saturday night. That's me.
That's me too. Like, genuinely, that's me too. Very rarely at other times. I would say never, but it tends to be Friday, Saturday, and Saturday. But, you know,
and I think the thing with contacting confidential, I think the thing is, I think so often when if you're struggling, or if there's things that are happening in your life, it's kind of hard to know who sometimes to reach out to, whether it's through feeling embarrassed about the emotions, whether it's not being able to speak to the people around you because they're somehow involved in the woes or the troubles that you're having, whether it's financial, relationship, work related. And I think the beauty of this is you will confidently, it's got confidential on the tin, it's confidentally have a discussion with somebody that can relate and understand to what's going on, without any judgment or issues. And I just think it's wonderful. So
that's great. And all our volunteers are experienced dentists, or even recently retired, but they're all dentists, and they understand the pressures that you're at. And nobody gives a name. Nobody wants to know a name. It's all confidential, and I've got to give my wife some credit. She came up with it. Personally, was first thinking about doing it, and it just seemed the right name for us as a group. But and thank you. And I mean, it's amazing. And I'm going to mention them because there's a conference in Edinburgh that I'm sure you're aware of, and who's the BACD. I know that Shamik comes on this group sometimes, and I will be contacting him because I've been contacted by the trustees and mentioned about the BACD. So who knows, I might make it up yet again. And what a wonderful place to come is Edinburgh.
That sounds good. I've taken very few days off this year, which I think is a problem in itself, because we're not taking as many holidays, but it's been tough not having days off, but I've taken off the dates of the BACD conference, so I'm going to be there.
Yeah, and I think that's I noticed there's some great names in dentistry going to that, none other than Pascal Mania. I've heard him before, and real heavyweight in aesthetic dentistry. So that's all good. So
excellent.
Thank you for supporting us. Thanks for the BACD, and we really appreciate it.
Well, that was great. I enjoyed catching up with you. That was fun. We did go over what I said we were going to do, but I think it still is the shortest one we've ever had. So I'll take that.
Cheers, everyone. Thank you.
Cheers. Good night, guys. Bye bye.
Bye bye.